Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. It reads, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." He's right here with us. Let's go to Hosea chapter 3. This is why he wants us to gather ourselves. Our prayers become stronger. Hosea chapter 3, verse 4. And it reads, "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king." We don't have an earthly king here on the earth. Nowhere. And without a prince. We don't even have a prince getting set up to reign as president here on the earth. And without a sacrifice. We don't have a sacrifice because don't nobody know what the sacrifice is. We're supposed to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. They ain't sacrificing. They ain't sacrificing at all. You tell them to keep Sabbath. I ain't keeping no Sabbath, man. You crazy. Keeping it on Sunday. That's my Sabbath day. Our people don't even have a sacrifice. And without an image, our people don't even know the image of the Most High or Ha Mashayach when he says that in Daniel and Revelation that he had hair of wool and his skin bronze. We don't even have an image. I looked up online the other day. I was looking up Genesis chapter 18. I just wanted to listen to it. So I looked it up on YouTube, right? And I was looking for somebody with flavor. Well, I mean flavor. I'm talking about a brother that could read Genesis chapter 18. And I was looking at all these different YouTube videos of people reading Genesis 18. Not one brother popped up. Not one. Not even Hispanic. Not even the Chinese or East Indian. No one else popped up but Edomites. I said, what in the world is this? I went from page to page to page to page to page. I mean, I just kept going, and every single video was an Edomite teaching Genesis 18 or reading Genesis 18. That's a campaign against us. We can't even get our words out unless we are doing what they want us to do. I could not believe it. I said, man, this is something. You mean they're the only ones that know the Bible? They're the only ones. That's what I mean by they're working hard to keep us from not being presently in the public eye, unless it's evil. Hosea chapter 3 again, verse 4. "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image." We don't have no images, not even us reading Bible verses. "And without an ephod." Don't even mention ephod. Brothers don't even know what that is. "And without a teraphim." We don't even have a teraphim, right? That's the old way of doing things. "Afterwards shall the children of Israel return and seek the Most High their power, and David their king, and shall fear the Most High and his goodness in the latter days." This is what we're doing. We're coming back to the understanding of who we are. Yeah? And when he says we're without all these things, we're without a synagogue too. We don't have a synagogue. Our synagogues are gone. Why are they gone? Because of all the captivities we've been through. Spanish Inquisition has a big part of it. All the so-called Christian churches that you see in Spain and Portugal and Italy, in those places, those were all our synagogues originally. Those were our synagogues. We had synagogues in Italy. Most notably, we had synagogues in places that you least expect. We had synagogues in Venice. Not been to Venice. We had synagogues in Rome. I've been to Rome. Spain. We had synagogues in Portugal. We had synagogues in Egypt, Syria, Libya, Tunisia, parts of Africa, parts of India, Ethiopia. But all of them were taken from us due to the prophecies.
This book is called The Jews of Africa, especially in the 16th and 17th century, by Sidney Mendelssohn. It was originally written in 1920. All right, we're going to start on page 162. Page 162. At the bottom it says, "Nevertheless, every Jew or Marrano who could escape from Spain or Portugal fled to North Africa, where despite scorn, cruelty, and robbery, they were at least allowed to profess their religion without being burnt at the stake. At the end of the 15th century, the King of Portugal discovered his mistake and endeavored to stop the Israelite exodus by proclamations, but it was too late, and nearly every Jew who had money with which to bribe or which to escape fled from the barbarians of the Iberian Peninsula, which was Portugal and Spain. So those who had money fled into North Africa, but as we read on, you're going to see how they even was chastised. You'll see that they were even chastised when they went into Algeria, Africa. We're going to go to page 110. We'll go to page 110, and this is about the Spanish Inquisition. And it reads, "In the other provinces of Algeria, the change from Arab to Turk domination had considerably improved the condition of the Jews. They certainly had to put up with heavy taxation and the contempt of the dominant race, but they had the right to manage their own affairs, and their religion was not interfered with. Although these privileges were denied them almost everywhere else, nevertheless, at times, their lot was very bitter, and they were nearly always in the hands of the Deys and the Pashas and sometimes inferior officials, who occasionally, when it suited their purpose, allowed the populace to pillage their houses. Their fear of the Spaniards and their natural hatred of Spanish rule was very intense, and when Charles V suffered his disastrous defeat at the hands of the Algerians in the year 1541, the joy of the Jews was unbounded. The rabbis composed prayers, and the poets wrote poems to commemorate the misfortunes of their hated oppressors. And long after these occurrences, the anniversary was observed joyfully in the Algerian synagogues during the occupation of the kingdom of Tlemcen by the Spaniards. The latter instituted a persecution of the Jews. In the year 1563, in the course of which 1,500 Israelites are said to have been murdered or enslaved. So this is after we left the Spanish Inquisition. We fled down into North Africa. Some of us resided in Algeria. And when we got there, eventually we got persecuted there too. So wherever we went, we were persecuted. It says, "It is not to be wondered at, therefore, that the Algerian Jews were full of joy whenever the Turks were victorious over the Spaniards, despite the fact that their lives under the Muslims were by no means always secure, their possessions immune from robbery, or their fate in general one to be envied." Let's drop down to here where it says during. "During all this time, Jews were expelled from all Spanish territory, with the exception of Oran, and had the envoy put his foot on Spanish soil, he would have run the risk of suffering severe penalties." This is page 119. And this is talking about the Spanish Inquisition. It says, "During the years of 1390 and 1391, fearful massacres of the Jews were enacted throughout the provinces of Castile, Aragon, Andalusia in Spain, and in the Balearic Islands, and thousands of Israelite refugees made their way to the coast cities of northern Africa. Large numbers of the exiles landed at Algiers, Oran, Buggy, and other cities, and from thence penetrated into the interior of Algeria, where they settled with the permission of the Muslim authorities and were well received by the Israelite co-religionists and by the population at large." This is right before they start getting us and putting us in slavery in the Americas, about 100 years before. And now let's find out if this book speaks about the Jews in West Africa. We'll start on page 16. It says, John Pori, the English translator of the History and Description of Africa by Leo Africanus, writing at the commencement of the 17th century, contributed a chapter on the religions of Africa, in which he remarks, at this day also, the Absians affirms that upon knowledge towards the west, there inhabited a most populous nation of the Jewish stock under a mighty king, and some of our modern cosmographers set down a province in the quarters which they call the land of the Hebrews, which is also called Negro land, placed as it were under quintessential in certain unknown mountains between the confines of Abbasia and Congo, and likewise on the north part of the kingdom of Galam, and the southerly quarter of the kingdom of Gohan. There are certain mountains people with Jews, this is in West Africa, who there maintain themselves free and absolute through the inaccessible situations of the same. Pori would thus appear to have been of the opinion that there was a Jewish state in the region indicated by Senato, as well as the other territories under Jewish rule in the vicinity of the Abyssinian kingdom. Senuto's reference to the term Terra de Gaede are solely of geographical character and the position in which he locates the country of the Jews on the African Tabula X in southwest and near the equator, which is right in the middle of the earth, right around the coast of Ghana and the Congo. He makes it adjoin the ancient kingdom of Benin, which is placed to the west of the Israelite territory on his map. So there he's telling you where the Israelites were located in West Africa.
This is why we met in secret after that. When you read the New Testament, you see us meeting in homes, catacombs, parks, public places, and so forth. And that's what we do today, still hiding, gathering, just like we did in the catacombs. No different. That's prophecy. Actually, let's get Revelation 2 and 9. Because Yahawashi made that prophecy when we had synagogues. But he knew we wasn't going to have synagogues after a while. He knew that we were going to go back into captivity. Revelation 2 and 9. Revelation 2 and 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why poverty? When you start reading about the Spanish and Portuguese and England and French inquisitions, you see that they took everything we had, made us poor. They put us through tribulations. If we were married to anyone that was of another nation, they would have that person snitch on us to say that we were crypto Jews or secret Jews, just so they could take everything from us. They stripped us of everything. Our gold, our silver, our watches, our earrings, our marriage rings. They stripped us of everything. Property, you name it. It says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, because they started converting to being Jewish in the 8th century. This was written 1st and 2nd century. So how did Yahawashi know this? Because he knew prophecy. He knew what was going to happen. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. See that? So he knew that these things were going to take place, that we was going to abide without a king, without a prince, without a sacrifice, without an image, without a synagogue. He knew all this stuff was going to happen. And so that's a blessing of what makes us Israelites.
This is what an ephod would look like. Okay, of course, this is generic. This is something I just bought. This is an ephod. This is what the priests of Israel hung around their necks. And the box, the ephod, this box represented the box that held the 12 stones of Israel. That's why you see on the box, you see Reuben, you see Simeon, you see Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Joseph, and Benjamin. Joseph always represents Manasseh and Ephraim. This makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. This is an ephod. This is what we don't have anymore. We don't have the actual ephod anymore. But this is how you know the Most High is going to gather the 12 tribes of Israel. I've been gathering stones just to have them. You don't have to do this, but I've just been gathering them. And man, I can't even gather most of them, but you can see what I have. I have a few stones. Basically, I have jasper for Benjamin. I got Gad, amethyst. You know, you can find this in certain mountains. I got a gate for Naphtali. I got Levi. I got Zebulun. Just gathering these stones is hard enough, let alone to say that we're going to go out there and locate all the 12 tribes of Israel. That's impossible, but it's not impossible with the Most High. The Most High is going to gather the 12 tribes of Israel. All we got to do is put the work in, and they'll come in. Just like I had to put the work in gathering these stones, the Most High is going to gather our people the same way. You got to put the work in. It takes time. But this is just for those brothers who don't know what an ephod is. This is it. This is what it would look like, but much, much bigger.